Hi, everyone, and happy Independence Day to our American listeners. I'm thrilled that July 4th falls on a Friday this year because it's the perfect opportunity to re-release our episode on the Bicentennial. The U.S. Bicentennial celebration in 1976 is one of my favorite cultural moments of the 20th century. The country basically spent the entire year celebrating, and it was a star-spangled extravaganza. We're talking parades, fireworks, clothing lines, home decor, concerts. Even the Queen of England came over to see what the fuss was about. It was a great time, and I can't wait for you to hear us talk about it. Don't worry, we'll be back in August with all new content. Make sure you subscribe to the show in whichever podcast platform you prefer so that you don't miss our return on August 8th. You can also follow us on YouTube and Instagram at MCL Podcast. Instagram's the best place to send us feedback and episode suggestions. Send us a DM anytime, or you can contact us through the Send Us a Text Message feature in the show notes. Now put on your red, white, and blue bell bottoms and get ready to enjoy our episode on the United States Bicentennial Celebration.
Welcome to Mid-Century Living, your weekly nostalgia podcast about the best of technology and culture from the mid-20th century.
Welcome to episode 35 of Mid-Century Living, the show where we talk all about the best of the mid-20th century and how to add the vintage vibes to your modern life. We are your hosts, Gonzalo
and Jackie. Thank you for joining us today. So we're back for season 3, and we've got a lot of exciting topics to cover. Since this episode is being released while many of us are enjoying a long Independence Day weekend, I wanted to talk all about the United States Bicentennial celebration from 1976. That's right, we've got another 70s rule breaker episode. But first, Gonzalo, how's your summer vacation going so far?
Great way to start the mid-century podcast season is with a rule breaker, huh?
Yeah, well, if we didn't do it now, we'd have to wait a whole other year and do it next July. So
That's true. Yeah. Yay, happy Independence Day, people. How was my vacation so far? Well, I just traveled up to the north where one goes if you live in Texas because it's hot as everything here. I can't say the word because,
we're a family podcast.
But I went up to Chicago and then to Michigan to visit former, or I guess,
friend of the show, Alex.
And it was it was amazing. Like the temperature was so perfect. It was like 50 in the morning and like high 70s in the afternoon. Oh man. And then I got back here and it was like 95, feels like 105.
Yeah. I can't believe how hot it got so far already. That sounds nice to go someplace cooler.
I know. We went strawberry picking.
Oh.
I know. It was so much fun. And but okay, so I traveled north in the summer. So I only took one pair of like pants. Everything else was shorts. And I wasn't about to go wear my nice pair of jeans strawberry picking if I had to get on the train the next morning to go back to Chicago. And I was like, I don't want to have to like wash my jeans. So I just wore shorts. And I was cold. And everybody on the little hayride that you have to take to go from the parking lot to the fields, they were like, oh, it's colder than usually in June. And I go, yeah, I know it's cold. And then, so of course, Alex, they're like, oh yeah, well, this is his first time strawberry picking. He's from Texas. So everybody was like, are you really cold? And I go, yes.
Yes, I'm really cold. Let's not talk about it anymore, shall we?
Yeah, but then they're like, oh, it's going to be so hot next week. It's going to be like 85. And I'm sitting there like,
They did that to me one time. My family went to Boston in July, and they were like, oh, sorry, it's so hot out. And it was 84 degrees in the sun. And I'm just like, this is winter weather for us. This is nothing.
Yeah. No, but it was a lot of fun. I mean, I had never gone strawberry picking before. And every time I'm up in Michigan, I thoroughly enjoy it.
Is it like a buy a basket and fill it up as much as you can, and then you just get to take it home kind of thing?
No, it was by the pound.
Oh.
We picked 23 pounds of strawberries.
Dang.
And then, and one more thing. Okay, before I know I'm hogging the weekly catch up because it's more like the monthly catch up.
Yeah.
But okay, I was in Chicago where my sister and my nieces are, and my sister had a great idea. Okay, first of all, I went to the museum where the Pioneer Zephyr is. So Instagram, be looking for pictures. But my sister, when I drive back from the museum, was like, "Oh wow, we should do that." And she pointed at those like quadricles. It's like 4 people on a bike, and it looks like a little old school car. I'll
No.
send you a picture.
Yeah, send it.
Those of you out on the internet, like, I'm sure you've seen these if you live anywhere near touristy stuff. But it's basically 4 seats, each pedals, but the front left drives it, and it looks like a little old Ford Model T car.
Cute.
Anyway,
Okay.
she's like, we should do that. So the next morning we went and did, and it was so difficult.
Was it just you two pedaling and then the kids are just like hanging out?
So my oldest niece was pedaling, and then my sister, my brother-in-law, and I were pedaling, and then the two little ones sat in the front, and there's no pedals there.
Oh, cool.
It was so exhaustingly difficult. The first thing, like, we started going, and then we went the wrong way. Had to like back up, but there's no reverse. You have to like Flintstone it. And then we finally got on the trail, and we're going, and like 5 minutes in, there's a hill, and we couldn't go up. Like, we started going, and like it just like
Started rolling backwards.
it started rolling backwards. So, like, I had the brake on. I think, okay, start pedaling now, and I would get the brake off, and then like we would start going, and then we would move like 2 inches. So then we got out and pushed it up the hill. And the entire time we're like, whose idea was this?
That is funny. Yeah, I can picture it in my head, and I'll Google it later to see if it.
Yeah.
Did you get someone to take a picture of all of you sitting in it?
No. There's pictures of us, but I don't think we have one of everybody on it.
Man, I bet that was a sight.
Yeah, but the kids were like, the kids in the front were like, we told them, like, you're our horn. So when you see people in front of us, you say, excuse us, or honk honk. So then they were like, honk honk. But then, of course, my sister, my brother-in-law, and I were like, we should never do this again. And then I think my brother-in-law or my sister, we passed someone who's like, oh, this is great. And he's like, don't do it. So then my nieces were like, don't do this. No one do this. This is horrible. So anyway, that's been my summer so far. I'm excited for more. I guess you guys out there in the internet are going to have to wait until next episode.
Yeah, to find out how the rest of your summer vacation went.
Yeah, how was yours?
Mine is action-packed so far. So we're recording this about halfway through June. And so far this month, I've gone to the Food Truck Championship of Texas, which was a blast. And it thankfully wasn't super hot yet because it was just the first weekend of June. But it's basically 50 different food trucks from all around Texas show up to this one town square in Graham. And there's like a competition, and there's judges that have to like try everything. And then there's a audience choice or whatever that we get to vote on if you downloaded the app, but I didn't download the app. But basically it was our second time doing this festival, and I was much better prepared this time because like the first time I didn't do any research in advance, so we had to just walk around the square a bunch and read everybody's menus. And then by the time we like figured out what we actually wanted to eat, it was like 30 minutes later and starting to get hot. And like, so this time I read everyone's menus in advance. I knew exactly which food trucks I wanted to try and what I wanted to order from each of them. So like we minimized the amount of time we were standing in the sun. I think my favorite food truck was one that just did wacky egg rolls. And I bought 2 egg rolls. One was like basically pizza stuffed. It was like salami and pizza sauce and mozzarella inside an egg roll. And then the other one was macaroni and cheese with ground beef inside an egg roll. It was awesome. They were both super cool. And they had like 12 different egg rolls. But what I was trying not to fill up on any one truck. But so we managed to try food from 4 different trucks and then dessert at a 5th. But we had to share everything. Otherwise, we wouldn't have.
You sound upset at having to share the food.
Well, the thing is, I think it would be cool if all of the food truck attendees, instead of just having full out, they just had their normal menus, which I feel like I would maybe do like a sample sized.
Oh, I see.
Like, I think it'd be cooler if everyone just had tiny little plates so that you could try more trucks. But since everyone just had their regular menus, it was like $15 full entrees with 2 sides at most of these places. So, like, if you ate it all yourself, you'd only be able to try 1 food truck, pretty much. So we split everything so that we could try 5 trucks. But if we didn't have to split everything, we could have tried 10 trucks. But I don't know, like, if everything was smaller. Like, I just wish they would do that. But I guess they're trying to put their best foot forward, and if they're happy with their dinner menu, then they're happy with their dinner menu, and it's not... Anyway.
Yeah.
But it was still a huge blast. Do you like food trucks?
I do like food trucks. My brother-in-law used to have a food truck.
Yeah, I was gonna say, did he ever do that? I know he was talking about doing that, or
I don't know if he did a festival. Back then, you couldn't cook on the trucks.
oh,
So he had a brick and mortar restaurant that would no. I think he had like a couple of tables in the front. It was mostly just for kitchens,
yeah,
but I do remember eating there. So maybe there was a little bar. It was a really good lobster roll on naan bread
yum.
that I had. I know it was really good.
Yeah, there
His
was
food
a
was
lobster truck at the festival, but apparently that lobster truck is basically a lobster truck franchise, so it's around places. If I wanted to go track it down, I could go track it down. So we didn't eat at it because, in theory, we could eat at it here. So we tried to get food trucks that aren't local.
yeah. We have a truck here that is called the Waffle Bus, and they serve chicken and waffles, and they're really good. And also, speaking of chicken and waffles, and I realize that I'm hijacking your food talk. I'm sorry,
That's fine.
but I went to brunch at a little place here called the Dandelion Cafe, and they have chicken and waffles. It was so amazing because like the batter for the waffle was cornbread based.
Ooh, fun.
So it was much more savory than sweet.
Mm-hmm.
And apart from the fact that the butter was spicy, it was so good.
That's not good.
Anyway, now that we've had food talk,
Oh, and then so the rest of my summer, but after food talk, sorry, is that ever since then it's been Dallas Tiki Week, so we went to a couple sip and shop events, and it's really cool because it's like the tiki is a very, I guess, obscure niche, especially
Mhm.
in Texas when there's no like it's not like California or something. That's like we have a beach, but it's not like a coastal vibe anyway. So most of the people into tiki here are either people who wish that they lived somewhere with a beach or are like California transplants or something.
Mhm.
But once a year in June, there's like a whole week of tiki events, and there was there was basically three things happening every single day, and I feel like I actually want to take some days off to go to some of the during the week events next week because there was like a velvet painting class that sounded super fun, but it was at like 3 p.m. on a Thursday.
Oh,
So I don't. Anyway, but I
I was
think
gonna be like, who's got that time off? But
right.
I got the whole week off.
Yeah, yeah. So it's all teachers and retirees, I guess. But I feel like I could just preemptively ask for some afternoons off so that I could attend some of these events. But we went to a sip and shop last Sunday, and we went to this big tiki flea market yesterday. That's my absolute favorite, where it's like all these people come from all around the state, and some people like even flew in from California and selling like big tiki statues and vintage clothes and
Ooh.
handmade purses and hair flowers and velvet paintings and yard sculptures and really pretty lamps. Um, so we had a huge blast and had a lot of rum and but I had a great time. And then we went to our local tiki bar, who were like the um, the brains behind the event. Like they're the ones like uniting everyone together for these events, and so since they tend to be downtown where their restaurant is, every time we went to one of these events we decided to go eat at their restaurant, which we never really make the trek to. It's like super downtown Dallas, and we live really far away from there, so it's
All
like
right.
it's an ordeal to get downtown where I live. But anyway, that's extra details. But I've been having a great action packed summer, and all that in 3 weeks. I don't know, it seemed like a lot of stuff. Anyway, well, now that we're getting boring again, I guess it's time to get to the history.
Yes, let's get on with the show. So today you say we're talking about the Bicentennial, right?
Yes. So I am obsessed with the Bicentennial. I just think it's fascinating how over the top it all got. I have a lot of Bicentennial merch, like glasses and napkins and like tea towels that I just like have acquired in places. It was this like really fantastic time. I mean, if you think about the time period leading up to it, we were just coming out of the 60s, which is like a time of huge political unrest. We just had the Watergate scandal and constitutional crisis. Like everyone was just ready to put all of that stressful, worrisome time behind them, and everyone just really threw themselves into the Bicentennial in a really big way. So it's just like this really fascinating year of time. Like 1976 was wild and over the top, and I just love it. So I had to talk about it at some point. So I was saving this for July on purpose, so that it would work with Independence Day weekend. So hope everyone's excited.
Yay!
Do you know anything about the bicentennial or?
No, I know that it marks 200 years of the USA being a thing,
Mm-hmm.
and that's as far as I know. I'm imagining lots of uh, flags and banners and those like little rosettes things. We have those in Argentina. We call them escarapelas, which is like a little like clip you put on your shirt. It's like a little circle with like a little flag.
Yeah,
We wear them on national holidays.
I bet that was involved, but it also was even more like more patriotic than that. Like, wait, just so buckle up. I guess I'm gonna go through a lot of the festivities. So several cities actually started celebrating early. There were smaller commemorative events in the couple years leading up to 1976, but because there's already so much to cover, I'm just going to focus on the events of 1976 because it had the most festivities. The festivities included elaborate fireworks displays in several major U.S. cities. The display in Washington, D.C. was televised nationally. There were fleet parades, which was basically international sailing ships going on little parades in big rivers and harbors. There were multiple television specials, Saturday morning cartoons, and movies featuring American history or bicentennial specific events. There were historical reenactments, there were parades, and lots of fun patriotic branding and marketing campaigns, which is actually my favorite part, and we'll get to that at the end. So here is a little bit about all these specific celebrations that took place around the country. So in New York, this seems to be the event that most people remember the most. I found this Reddit thread from a subreddit that exists called Ask Old People.
Ooh.
So there was a thread on Ask Old People that was, do you remember the American Bicentennial? What was it like? And so I just read all of these people who were teenagers in 1976 or like children in 1976, and most of them mentioned specifically uh, the Fleet Parade in New York City as like the thing that they remember the most. So there was a Operation Sail event, or Op Sail, which sounds super military-y, which is the second ever since 1964. It was an international fleet parade of tall-masted sailing ships. 16 of them sailed to New York to participate in the Grand Parade of Sailing Ships, and each of the ships flew a banner featuring a bicentennial logo. And New York also at the same time hosted an international naval review on the morning of July 4th, where many nations sent warships to New York Harbor, and President Ford sailed down the Hudson River aboard the guided missile cruiser USS Wainwright to review the international fleet and receive salutes from each visiting ship. Apparently this was a very big deal, and a lot of people traveled just to look at the ships. So,
That's
especially
cool.
people who were kids then, I guess a lot of people's parents took them to go look at the boats. So,
We don't have any like big military parades. Like we're filming on June 16th. Yesterday in Britain was the Trooping of the Color,
mm-hmm.
which is a huge parade. In Argentina, the Grenadiers just started doing the change of the flag publicly again.
I'm sure there are things in more coastal towns.
Well, the only thing I can think of is the guards at the Tomb of the Unmarked Soldier, because there they have there's always a military, I think it's a Marine, guarding the tomb 24 hours a day.
The only thing I can think of is like the military planes doing their little shows.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
happens a lot, but I don't know about boats or land things.
yeah. I don't know.
No.
But that's today. Yeah, something to look for. Let's go back to 1976.
Let's go back to the 70s. And so Washington, D.C. had the like biggest U.S. bicentennial parade. Johnny Cash, of all people, served as the Grand Marshal. And the event was attended by Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip.
Ah.
And they also toured the country afterwards, attending other bicentennial functions with the
Hold
president.
up, that's like asking your ex to
I
come
know.
to your wedding.
So weird that they showed
or
up.
your
They're like,
anniversary.
good job, you guys, getting rid of us 200 years ago. Now we're gonna go see how you're doing. So they just like hopped around the country with the president, looking at stuff. The Smithsonian Institution had several exhibitions celebrating the event, including a long-term exhibition in its Arts and Industries building, replicating the look and feel of the 1876 Centennial Exposition, which was the 100th anniversary. Many of the artifacts dated from the 1876 World's Fair, which was in Philadelphia at that time. And they also did the Bicentennial Festival of American Folklife, which was thousands of national and international scholars, folk artisans, and performers hosting programs in the western part of the National Mall 5 days a week for 12 weeks in the summer of 1976. And they also opened the new home of the National Air and Space Museum on July 1st, 1976. So there was much going on in the Capitol.
Which is one of my favorite museums about air and space.
I've never been. I want to go. I've never been to the Capitol, and I just really want to go to the Smithsonian. It's been like 3 days in the Smithsonian.
So there's, I think, like 11 Smithsonian museums. There's a lot of Smithsonian museums, and they're all free.
Yep. And they're all awesome. That's why I need like 3 whole days.
Yes.
I want to go to all of them.
Yeah. I think when I went, I like my itinerary, because I'm a type A traveler. It was like morning I had 3 hours at a museum, then I would go have lunch, do whatever, and then I had 3 hours for a museum in the afternoon, and then I would go to the gym and then have dinner.
My schedule would look similar except for the part at the gym. Be at the part where I'm eating cake or something.
Well, that's why I have to go to the gym on vacation, so that I can eat cake.
I just eat the cake. But which is another problem in itself, but whatever. That's not today's episode. For more on that, you guys can listen to our Weight Watchers episode, which was episode 226 or whatever.
Nice plug. We'll put that in the notes.
Yeah, I can't remember the episode number. I just anyway. So on the other side of the country, Los Angeles had several celebrations. They had their own bicentennial parade on Wilshire Boulevard. The Los Angeles City Schools had a bicentennial pageant at the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum, which was broadcast as part of a television special called Happy Birthday America on NBC, which was hosted by Paul Anka.
Oh, nice.
They had something called Pacific 21, which was a bicentennial exhibition and conference center, and Knott's Berry Farm also had its own bicentennial celebration. So in Philadelphia, on July 6th, the Queen was there on her little Look at the Colonists tour, and she presented the Bicentennial Bell on behalf of the British people, which is a replica of the Liberty Bell, cast at the same foundry. It's inscribed with, "For the people of the United States of America, from the people of Britain, 4th July 1976, let freedom ring." So that's sweet and supportive.
It is nice.
So there was also a Delaware Crossing reenactment on November 20th and 21st of 1976. It was apparently super impressive historical reenactment of George Washington leading the Continental Army across the Delaware River. The real event took place in December over Christmas weekend, however, but the reenactment was in November. So the organizers dedicated meticulous attention to detail in planning this reenactment other than the date. I put that in parentheses myself because I thought it was so weird that they moved it. Like, they were so close.
But different dates.
Yeah.
I know they could have at least done it a month before, on November 25th, 26th.
Like, if it wasn't going to be on the same weekend, then it could have been
in July.
Yeah, in July, like, whatever. But probably they wanted it to be cold, though, because they were wearing period-accurate uniforms and carrying period-accurate tools and weapons. And they needed the currents to be icy to make the, like, spectacle as grand and accurate as they could be. So it was a whole fleet of boats crossing the icy currents of the Delaware River. And it was so popular and fantastic that ever since then, that reenactment has occurred every year. And there's actually 2 now, and they're in December. There's the first crossing reenactment, which is basically a dress rehearsal that you can go see 2 weeks before Christmas, and it's usually less crowded. And then the official reenactment is a Christmas Day crossing, and apparently there's, like, festival booths around it, and it's like a whole big fun weekend with activities and stuff. Cool. So that sounds super fun. NASA, to celebrate, staged a science and technology exhibit called the Third Century America, which took place from May 30th through September 7th, 1976, and boasted 15 giant exhibit domes with participation from 16 governmental agencies. It opened at 8 a.m. and closed 5 p.m. daily, and visitors were also enticed with a thrill-packed tour aboard an air-conditioned bus through Kennedy Space Center. Admission, including the bus tour, cost $5, which is $24 today, adjusted for inflation, which still seems like a pretty sweet deal, actually.
Yeah, I love that they added it has to be AC because, let's face it, Kennedy Space Center is in Houston where it's hot all summer long. They did this in the middle of, like, the hottest part of the year.
Well, I mean, it's not their fault that's when the that's when Independence Day is. But
Well, that's
I
true.
love that it was an air conditioned bus was also probably just novelty in general at that point.
Oh
I don't
yeah.
know when air conditioning became standard and everything. Um,
Well, down here is standard all the time, but it's an option in most places. My car, like the default version of my car, comes without AC.
really?
It's
Even
an
now?
option, even now.
That's
It
crazy.
also the default version also comes with the kind of windows that you had to wind up.
Oh, but it's a Jeep.
Yeah.
So that doesn't count. It's not a real car. It's a vehicle for I mean, you're not buying it. You're not supposed to buy Jeeps just to like drive around town in. You're supposed to buy Jeeps to like go climb rocks.
Okay. I feel personally attacked. So how about we talk about Disney?
So the Disney parks also had their own celebrations on both coasts. So Disneyland and the Magic Kingdom at Walt Disney World presented America on Parade, which is an elaborate parade celebrating American history and culture, which featured a new song written by the Sherman Brothers specifically for the event. You may know them from such classics as Mary Poppins and all the songs from the World's Fair. So they wrote a song for the event called The Glorious Fourth, which was actually especially exciting because they'd already left Disney Studios at this point, but then they came back to write that song. And the parade ran twice daily from June 1975 through September 1976. And they also showed the whole parade in a TV special called Walt Disney's America on Parade. Professional sports did celebrations. I'm not a sports person, so most of this is going to sound like me reciting something in another language, so apologies. The overall theme of the entertainment of Super Bowl X, which was held January 18th, was to celebrate the Bicentennial. Players on both teams, which were the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Dallas Cowboys, wore a special patch with the Bicentennial logo on the jerseys. The halftime show featured a performance group called Up with the People, and it was entitled 200 Years and Just a Baby, a tribute to America's Bicentennial. Um,
No.
the United
I'm
States.
glad they didn't say that the US was 200 years young because I hate it when people are like, "Oh, she's 40 years young." No. Stop it. It's 40 years old. I'm
uh,
very passionate about this.
it is a really annoying phrase. I agree with you. So the Olympics, they tried to be super patriotic during the Olympics that year. The United States Olympic Committee actually initiated bids to host both the 1976 Summer and Winter Olympic Games in celebration of the bicentennial, but apparently it did not work out, and they both ended up being hosted in other countries anyway. Apparently, it's super hard to get the Olympics here.
Yeah, it is.
Philadelphia served as the host for the 1976 NBA All-Star Game, the 1976 National Hockey League All-Star Game, and the 19 oh, not and, we're still going. The 1976 NCAA Final Four and the 1976 Major League Baseball All-Star Games, at which President Ford threw out the first pitch.
Fun.
So, sports, sports, sports. And that's it. So that was there for the sports people. I didn't ignore them. So other stuff that people did was just so those were like the official big major celebrations. There were other smaller and more wacky ones like local observances included painting mailboxes and fire hydrants red, white, and blue, and even to look like little colonial soldiers. I included a link. Click on the link, and then tell the people what you see.
Oh man. I don't know what that was, but they are so cool.
They are
They're like
the
little people looking things. They look like the nutcrackers. That's what they look like.
so
But they all
apparently
have this like random like thing protruding out of their chest, which is where you put the hose.
I think they're adorable. Someone in that Reddit thread I was reading said he actually painted a lot of them in his town as an Eagle Scout project. So I guess they had
Oh, that's cool.
Boy Scouts painting them.
Oof.
So that explains a little
Ethan
bit about.
Allen looks a little bit. Benjamin Franklin, I like.
Apparently, there are some of those still around if the paint was sealed well enough. So
Ooh.
that's adorable, and that happened. Some other fun and tacky celebrations that other things did. There were many national railroads painted locomotives or rolling stock in patriotic color schemes, typically numbered 1776 or 1976, and then model railroad companies quickly released recreations of these, and they were very popular among both children and adults. Many military units marked their aircraft with special designs in honor of the bicentennial. The New Jersey Lottery operated a special bicentennial lottery in which the winner received $1,776 per week before taxes for 20 years, which would be a total of $1,847
Before taxes.
before taxes. Yeah, they always take a huge chunk out, but it's free money, so. The Bicentennial Wagon Train Pilgrimage was a thing where a wagon train pilgrimage traced the original covered wagon trade and transportation routes across the United States, encompassing many trails, which would not make for good radio. It started in Blaine, Washington on June 8th, 1975, and concluded at Valley Forge, Pennsylvania on July 4th, 1976. Another memory that came up a lot with the people in the Reddit group was something called the Bicentennial Minute, which is a short TV segment after the news every night describing an inspiring bit of historical trivia, and it was hosted by a different celebrity every day.
Oh, that's cool.
And then there was also the American Freedom Train, which was a train that had its own special red, white, and blue paint color scheme and its own itinerary and route across the 48 states, stopping to visitors and displaying Americana and related historical artifacts. And there are plans to run a Freedom Train again in 2026, but more on that in our Connection to Today segment. For now, we have gotten to, now that we're getting wackier, the branding and consumerism portion of the Bicentennial celebration. So there was an official logo that was made for the event. So the logo was a stylized red, white, and blue 5-point star encircled by the words American Revolution Bicentennial, 1776 through 1976, in Helvetica, of all fonts. Designed by Bruce N. Blackburn, a co-designer of the modernized NASA insignia.
Ooh.
This was trademarked, and products were only permitted to display it by paying a license fee to ARBA, which I guess was the company.
American Revolution Bicentennial Association?
Probably. That's probably what that stands for. So there is a lot of stuff floating around on eBay with that logo on it, so you know if you got like officially licensed Bicentennial merch if it's got that logo on. But there's plenty of other patriotic stuff to buy because the Bicentennial became not just a celebration of American history, but a branding bonanza. So sponsorships and endorsements flooded in as companies sought to align themselves with the spirit of the occasion. Many commercial products appeared in red, white, and blue packages to tie them to the Bicentennial. Many brands ran patriotic marketing campaigns. I found an article that has photos of a lot of them. It's like Pez, Zippo lighters, like all the cereals, like everything. And I will link that in the show notes if anyone wants to go look at them. Pretty much every product you bought in every business window had some Bicentennial decoration. Everyday objects like t-shirts, hats, and even household items were emblazoned with stars and stripes. Car dealers even put out special red, white, and blue Bicentennial cars.
Ooh.
Babies born that year were all referred to as Bicentennial babies, and any women who got married that year were called Bicentennial brides. There was actually one official Bicentennial baby who was a woman named Karen Steele, who was, at the time, the first baby born on July 4th, 1976, 12 seconds after midnight. And so she became famous just for being born that moment. And she was featured on the Today Show and Good Morning America and received commemorations from President Ford and a host of other notables.
Just because she was born, she didn't. It's not an achievement. It's not. She's like, I'm
it's really a
now.
bigger deal for her mother, I guess. But yeah, the Bicentennial baby was a thing. So some analysis of this over-the-topness. Critics of the branding bonanza argue that these marketing tactics undermined the integrity of the Bicentennial.
Oh, come on.
That's what I said. But since we're going to show both sides, I guess. So some historians argue that the mass rebranding and marketing reduced a momentous occasion in American history to a marketing gimmick, and that the true significance of the Bicentennial was overshadowed by commercial interests. However, the supporters of the branding frenzy argue that it helps democratize the celebration, making them accessible to a wider audience. And by embedding patriotism into everyday products and experiences, the Bicentennial became more inclusive and engaging for Americans across the country. And that is how I feel.
I think those critics were just upset that they didn't come up with the ideas. That some other people there like, oh, we didn't come up with that idea. You suck.
But I don't think the 4th of July is supposed to be like a somber thing. You're supposed to celebrate. So
yeah.
I think it's nice that all of the show, maybe they're just like trying to make some extra money or like and capitalize on the situation, but I feel
Yeah.
like more companies doing more patriotic stuff is always a good thing. I don't know.
I get it. I get their whole like, oh, we need to, this is important. We need to celebrate the importance of it, and by putting out little tchotchkes that are red, white, and blue, like I can see how that takes away from the importance, but only if the people putting out these things are doing it to take away from the celebrations.
Right.
I
It's
think
not
it
like it
adds.
was one or the other.
Yeah,
It adds to it.
yeah,
Because like all of those official events were happening and they all sounded really exciting and I'm sure they were like very big and official looking, but it's nice
yeah,
to just have other fun stuff
yeah. Little
too, especially
mementos.
if you don't live in big cities or anything.
Yeah, stuff that you can then pass on to your kids and be like, look, I was here.
I was here. I bought this hat.
So what's the influence on today?
So one main influence that all of this patriotic extravagance had on society was the popularization of the American colonial influence on home decor and architecture, which is sometimes referred to as bicentennial chic, but is more often called colony awful or put an eagle on it. It is granny decorating to the max, but early American colonial home decor actually has been around since the 40s, but the look got really bold and loud in the mid 70s and it stayed strong till the 80s. So, some other motifs besides eagles that were included in this decor are soldiers and horses, the Liberty Bell, emblems. All of these were like stitched onto like couch cushions and curtains and wallpaper, like just the Liberty Bell in the bathroom. Like, it was just crazy. They had butter churns and oil lamps converted into table lamps. Spinning wheels just plopped into your living room as art. Retro Renovation has a great article about it with lots of photos that I will also link in the show notes. But perhaps the most important connection to today is that we have another big independence anniversary coming up. 2026 will be our. I haven't tried to say this out loud yet.
Semi-quincentennial.
Semi-quincentennial, or our 250th anniversary. So there are already several event commissions working on stuff. They actually, some of them were formed as early as like 2011.
Ooh.
So from the official government commission, we'll be getting at the very least commemorative coins and postage stamps again, specifically named naval vessels, and events in, quote, locations of historical significance to the United States, which will include Boston, Charleston, New York City, Louisville, and Philadelphia. The Daughters of the American Revolution and the Sons of the American Revolution are also helping out a lot in their respective cities.
Did not know
Will
that was
it be
still
as
around.
big as the Bicentennial? I don't know.
I guess we'll see.
I guess we'll see. Like I mean, I feel like people still love a branding frenzy.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I hope that it spreads out to the rest of the country and doesn't just stay in these like big official events, and that
I
there's a
think
whole bunch
so.
of stuff
I think it'll be a
happening too.
thing.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
I know it's only halfway through. It's not like a big like century celebration, but it's still really cool. I mean, people who were at the Bicentennial are still around,
Yeah.
so hopefully they will help keep it tacky. I don't know. We'll see.
Hashtag keep it tacky.
Anyway, but now that we're caught up to the present, it is time for our etiquette segment. So, Gonzalo, what do we have today?
All right. Well, since we discussed the bicentennial today, I wanted to discuss something USA related. So this is the etiquette for, quote, the new resident in Washington. And it comes once again from Amy Vanderbilt's complete book on etiquette, but this time from the book from 1963.
Exciting.
Yeah. So, regarding the flag and the national anthem, many homes and businesses in the capital display the flag, which is very interesting because I just saw a TikTok about someone not from Texas coming to Texas, and they're like, Texas are so proud. They have flags everywhere. And I'm like, do other states not?
I don't know. We're just special.
We are special. But here are some rules that need to be followed when displaying the Stars and Stripes, and these are enforced by federal statutes. There's only some here because there was a long list.
Wow.
Don't let it trail on the ground. Don't let it touch it. You always display the flag only from sunrise to sundown and lower it if it rains. Raising or hoisting the flag should be done fast, but you lower it slowly. Which I don't know if it's on purpose. Like raising a flag is really easy. I'm doing the motion. Lowering it is like, I don't know. Naturally you go slower. City and state flags should be flown lower than the U.S. flag. The exception here, of course, is the Texas flag.
Woohoo.
And saluting the flag, a lady does not remove her gloves indoors or outdoors. It's part of her costume, which I don't like the word costume, but that's what it said. And a military man does not remove his gloves either. Regarding the singing of the national anthem, which, by the way, I sang my first national anthem as a citizen this past semester.
Oh, yay!
Yeah.
Yes, congratulations. Oh, and this will be your first 4th of July as a citizen also.
It is, yeah. So, we must pay attention to the playing of the national anthem. It is usually played at the beginning of certain events and announcements, that kind of stuff, and actually must be played at certain designated gatherings. So, you must stand when the anthem is played. The exception is if you are too old or too infirm or maybe too young, although she says that the young people need to be trained. Singing the song, however, is not an easy song to sing. Most people can transpose the high notes an octave lower into something that they can manage. But if you cannot transpose, then sing everything but the high notes. Don't just stand there mute. And from Amy, this quote, which is not as snarky in this, at least in this chapter of the book. But anyway, she says, quote, "The idea behind the mass singing of the anthem is to stir a feeling of patriotism and unity. Civilian men and boys remove their hats, hold them with their right hand over their hearts. Women stand at attention or place their right hand over their heart. You should also not chew gum, eat, or smoke during the playing of the anthem. If it starts playing and you're not at your seat, don't continue to your seat, even if you are in the aisle when the music starts. It's like drop everything and sing the anthem.
Huh.
And you should also never play the anthem at home merely for entertainment."
So I can't go to YouTube and listen to the full 5-stanza version.
I think you can make an exception.
It's research.
It's research. There we go. But anyway, that is the etiquette for the new resident to Washington, D.C. What do you think?
I love that. I like that there's specifics. Yep, I'm fine with all of these.
I like them too. I think we should give them their stamp.
The national anthem stuff was particularly intriguing if I ever, for some reason, have to go to a sporting event. It is good to know the stuff like not eating while it's playing and just stop where you're standing and sing the national anthem and then go on instead of like walking to your seat while it's happening. Because I don't think I would have done that by instinct. So I'm glad to know that those tips just in case I'm in that situation.
Yeah. I'm surprised that we don't do the national anthem at school. And the only reason why is so we do the pledge to the flags, although no one stands anymore.
You mean like before sporting events or?
No, like during the day.
Oh.
But I remember in grade school outside of the country, like when I know we did this in Chile. I'm sure we did it in Argentina as well. I remember doing it in Mexico. In Mexico, every Monday, the school watched the flag go up, like as a thing, and like you were selected to be the flag bearer. And it was a group of people that marched down the steps. We had this like marble staircase in the front of the school. We'll march down the staircase, put the flag up. But once a month, as I think it was the first Monday of the month, they did the flag, and then everybody got together and sang the national anthem. But we don't do that in the States.
That's interesting. Yeah, I don't know.
Awesome. Well, let's give this December approval. And with that, it looks like we have landed the plane. Thank you guys all for listening today. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to the show and tell a friend.
Yes, and you can also follow us on Instagram at MCL Podcast. This is the best place to send us feedback and episode suggestions. Send us a DM anytime. You can now also find us on YouTube with the same handle at MCL Podcast.
Thanks, guys, for listening, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Bye!
Thank you for listening to Mid-Century Living. Please subscribe, tell your friends, and leave a review. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also follow us on Instagram at MCL Podcast. See you next Friday.